Big backstage update on Bray Wyatt possibly heading to Impact Wrestling. It's a WWE injury update on Nia Jax and Eva Marie. NXT's Ridge Holland was backstage at SmackDown this past Friday. And Braun Strowman wrestles his first post-WWE match. Hello and welcome to the news on this Sunday morning. This solo Sunday news for myself, Andrew Ballard here at What Culture Wrestling. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And first and foremost, before we get into it, I hope you're having a really, really good Sunday, whatever you're doing. Whether that's just nothing, or you're working, or you're doing whatever, just have a good day. It's cool. It's Sunday. But right, let's dig into the news. And firstly, as mentioned, Bray Wyatt. Is he going to Impact Wrestling? Is he going to AEW? Is he going wherever? NWA. I would love to see Wyndham Rotunda in the NWA, but I know I'm in the minority here because I will always talk about the NWA whenever I get the opportunity to, and this is the opportunity. But as per Fightful Select, there's been somebody from Impact has reached out directly to Wyndham Rotunda, to Bray Wyatt. Now, who that is, it's not been revealed, but someone's reached out directly to Wyatt to see if there is any interest in him coming to Impact Wrestling, trying to presumably facilitate some talks with Impact. Now, Impact, of course, are clearly very interested in bringing in Wyndham Rotunda because he's a very talented dude who anybody in their right mind would want on their roster. But Fightful adds that the talks have taken place between Impact and Wyatt, but that a deal has not been agreed and isn't close at this stage. That's not to say that a deal could not happen in the future, of course, and something could be agreed way before Bray Wyatt's WWE non-release clause expires, which at the moment seems to be the 29th of October. Of course, Bray Wyatt under a standard 90-day WWE non-compete clause, which means he can't wrestle anywhere for 90 days. Released on the June the 2nd, I think it was, he was released just on his own. There's been all these mass releases across the company over the last 18 months or so. With Bray Wyatt, it was just on one day, it was like, yep, The Fiend has been released. And the wrestling world went, really? Why? But yes, maybe he ends up in Impact Wrestling after all, because obviously the big story in recent weeks and months was that Bray Wyatt would be going to AEW. And that AEW debut could happen at this past Wednesday's edition of AEW Dynamite. That Dynamite, of course, taking place from Rochester, New York, the hometown of Mr. Brody Lee. And so people were kind of putting that together and thinking that that could be a cool place to debut Bray Wyatt in AEW. And obviously there was all the speculation about maybe he comes in and stabilizes the Dark Order. That didn't happen, and it remains to be seen where Bray Wyatt turns up. Wyndham Rotunda, as we should start calling him, or who knows, it could be Wyndham Wyatt, it could be Bray Rotunda when he does resurface in the wrestling world. But either way, the Impact stuff, it's not been, there's no deal on the table right now that's been agreed, but that's not to say it couldn't happen in the future. When you look at who this could be, who's reached out from Impact, from the roster to Bray Wyatt, I mean, you look at it, there's so many people there who were in the WWE system at the same time as Bray Wyatt. You've got someone like Steve Cutler, Steve Macklin. You've got Deanna Purrazzo. You've got Brian Myers, Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, Matt Raywolt, the former Aiden English. You've got even someone like Tommy Dreamer. Obviously, Tommy Dreamer's in the news for all the wrong reasons lately, but someone like Tommy Dreamer has you presume, some sort of relationship with a Bray Wyatt. You've got people like Madman Fulton, the former Sawyer Fulton. So there's the Good Brothers. There's so many people in Impact right now who have ties. Heath Slater, the Nexus, yes. But yeah, there's so many people who it could have been. But there's more on that, I guess, as and when things develop over these next few weeks. But moving away from Bray Wyatt to Nia Jax and Eva Marie. Now, one of these ladies is due for, it seems like an extended period of time off WWE television. This comes from Pro Wrestling Insider, PWI, who reports that Nia Jax isn't going to be on TV for a little while. Now, obviously, Nia Jax has been a featured player for pretty much since she arrived on the main roster. She's always been in and around TV. Obviously, there's been injury setbacks, but she's a big deal on Raw in recent weeks. And also, of course, I mean, you look at her, she's been on TV so many times with Shayna Baszler as part of the Raw Tag Team Champion. She's a former Raw Women's Champion. So Nia Jax is, in terms of how WWE view their women's roster, Nia's up there. I mean, she could, obviously you would say she's not that level of Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks, how WWE view people, or Becky Lynch, the man, but Nia's a big deal, man, and she's going to be missing from WWE television according to PWI. She's going to have an extended period of time off. Now, Whether that extended period is months or weeks remains to be seen. Maybe she sees out the rest of the year at home. There's no news on why Nia is having this time off. It could just be she needs a break. It could be there's some sort of niggling injuries that just needs some time to simmer down. But yeah, Nia is seemingly been written off TV as of this past week's Raw. That Raw, of course, saw Shayna Baszler do the elbow stampy thing that she does with people, which she'd done to Eva Marie. Which round was it? No, Nia Jax was the week before. Eva Marie was this week. But either way, it seems like Nia Jax is being written off TV for the foreseeable future. As for Eva Marie, I quite like this because, kayfabe, brother, keep it working. Eva Marie was at SmackDown, was backstage at SmackDown on Friday, and was seen for the whole day wearing a sling on her arm to sell the injuries that Nia Jax has done to her with the stampy elbow thing. There needs to be some name for that. There probably is. I'm sure I'm going to get rinsed in the comments for not knowing the name of that. It's a stamp on the elbow and it snaps it. And Eva Marie sold it really well. And Nia Jax sold it amazingly the week before. But yeah, Eva Marie isn't going to be off TV. I know some people are going to groan at that, I'm sure. But she was selling the injury. And part of me just goes, good job, Eva. I like that. Keeping it alive, brother or sister. But yeah, Nia Jax isn't going to be around for a while. Some people who may be around, though, could be Xia Li and Dakota Kai. Now, they wrestled a dark match before SmackDown. And of course, recent weeks, months have seen there's just plenty of rumors that both of those ladies will be getting called up from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. And to me, I mean, I'm admittedly a huge Xia Li mark. Just she looks like a badass. She is a badass. She will kick your face off. Obviously, poor Mercedes Martinez got a legit kick that did some damage. But Xia Li, just ever since she first turned up in WWE, she just looks so cool. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. I just thought she looks like she is. There's just this. She is, as it would say over here, well-hard, and she is. And Dakota Kai, I mean, God, man, to me, Dakota Kai was the perfect babyface team kick. Her and Tegan Knox, it was great. And you're thinking, how can you turn this girl heel? And she's done a great job as a heel. But you look at NXT, and I mean, it's not. I don't know, it doesn't take a lot to think that, okay, these ladies haven't been on NXT for a while, especially as they were both in such featured programs. Dakota Kai with Raquel Gonzalez and obviously Xia Li with the Tian Sha stuff that she's been doing, and she's obviously been absent from NXT programming for what feels like a good chunk of time by now. So to see those two ladies called up, it doesn't seem a million miles away, and that could happen as of tomorrow. You would think that the WWE Draft Night 2 takes place on Monday Night Raw. Xia Li defeated Dakota Kai in a dark match prior to SmackDown. So, I mean, they've been working dark matches prior to Raw and SmackDown for what feels like forever. And also, of course, Dakota Kai worked WWE main event. So clearly, WWE management has been putting casting their eyes over both of these ladies, as they did with Austin Theory, who is now been moved to Raw, was it? I believe. He was drafted anyway. And also, I mean, people like Odyssey Jones have been doing these dark matches. Keith Lee has been doing these dark matches. But yeah, WWE casting their eye over talents. Aaliyah, who's been called to SmackDown. So yeah, there's going to be more NXT names moving to the main roster now. Usually it's like we've been almost conditioned, I guess, in the last couple of years, where it's like it almost feels like not even a sideways move to go from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. But now with the NXT 2.0 and how that's been received in the couple of weeks to be on TV, I mean, is a move to Raw a good thing or a bad thing now? SmackDown, yeah, let's go to SmackDown. Hit Rogue on SmackDown. But we'll see who else moves from NXT. But one person who was also backstage at SmackDown this past Friday, night one of the draft, was Ridge Holland. Now, you look at Ridge Holland and you just think Vince McMahon just looks at him and goes, money. He sees money because, I mean, we all know Vince loves his big guys. And just talk about that. Odyssey Jones was getting a look. Von Wagner as well had a look in dark matches. All big dudes. Keith Lee, obviously, Keith Lee's a big dude. Keith Lee doesn't need to be working dark matches. Keith Lee doesn't, just have him on TV featured every week and the guy will make you money, will become a massive star. And it's simple when I'm sat here in my little man cave in Wrexham, I guess, in North Wales, not running WWE, this sports entertainment juggernaut like Vince McMahon. But yeah, Ridge Holland. Now, the guy he has such a great look. He's just built like a tank. He's been heavily featured on NXT when he's been fit. Obviously, he had that really nasty injury when things just started going for him that put him on the shelf for what, like 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it was. He's returned to TV in recent weeks, again aligned with Pete Dunne. Now, Pete Dunne, that's another name. Where is he going to be main roster bound? I mean, you look at NXT right now. Is there much going for him? Is there? Obviously, he could win the NXT title, but he seems out of that picture right now. So you look at Pete Dunne. Is he out of options in NXT? Is it better to move him to Raw or SmackDown? But we'll see. But Rich Holland, was backstage at the SmackDown taping on Friday, and you just know that WWE see him, and as soon as they think that guy is ready to move to the main roster, he is being moved to the main roster. It's, I guess now the other example of that will probably be Braun Breaker. Let's call him Bronson Steiner, Rex Steiner, whatever you want to call him. Just not Braun Breaker, man. But with that guy, how WWE has presented him on NXT 2.0, as soon as they deem him ready, and I mean, he's been great, but obviously he's clearly very green. The dude's been in the wrestling business in terms of working for a year. Obviously that heritage there. The Steiner's one of my favorite ever tag teams. Just what a team. But Braun Breaker has really impressed, and that as soon as he's deemed ready, he's going straight to Raw or SmackDown, and he's going to the moon. Cameron Grimes, there's another guy for the draft maybe. But yeah, Rich Holland, that guy is going to the moon as well as soon as WWE deem him ready. And maybe that ready is as soon as tomorrow night at the draft at Raw. Braun Strowman moving away from WWE, or Adam Scherr, as we should now call him, I guess, because that is the guy's real name and that is what he's wrestling under these days. He competed in his first post-WWE match last night. Now, this was EC3's Free the Narrative 2 event, which, for those not aware of this isn't your standard wrestling show. It's a pay-per-view that was on Fight, so it is a pay-per-view wrestling show, but it is an event that's basically a whole bunch of cinematic matches that are designed around the concept of wrestlers finding their own narrative, freeing their narrative, telling their own stories and performing how they want to perform. Now, Adam Scherr, I was going to say Braun Strowman then. Adam Scherr competed in the main event against EC3 in a match that he won, of course, because he's the big dude who is... This event seemed tailored around him, obviously, because he's such a big name. This is a guy who, this is a guy who's a former Universal Champion. This is a guy who has been in main events against Brock Lesnar, against Roman Reigns, against all of WWE's big hitters. So, of course, this was built around Adam Scherr because he's a huge star, whether you like him or not. Now, he did win. He won by knockout after a choke. But as the match got going, he was... Again, this is a cinematic match. So as things started, Adam Scherr was basically saying about how he had everything taken away from him, everything ripped away from him, everything that mattered in his life taken away. They wanted him to be a monster, but he has to... How did he put it? He has to basically to kill the monster to become the man he was put on this earth to be. And then EC3 would hit him with a chair about 30 times, and the tables would turn, and Adam Scherr would pick up the win, the KO win. And where he goes next remains to be seen, because again, this is a guy who, he's on the radar of everywhere. Whether some of the AEW fans out there would like it or not, he's on the radar of AEW because he is just such a uniquely talented guy. I'm not the biggest Braun Strowman fan by far. It is what it is, but you can't deny that there's something there. There was that spell when he was white hot in WWE and you just thought, put the world title on him. It was him and Seth Rollins at a time when nobody else was clicking. It felt like those two were just going up the card, and they were white hot is the term. And WWE didn't pull the trigger on him, and then by the time they did pull the trigger on him a couple of years later, the bloom was almost off the rose, I guess would be the saying. And also, obviously, it felt a little... I don't know, just the fact that he was shoehorned into a WrestleMania Universal title match announced the day before WrestleMania. Of course, this was WrestleMania 36, where he beat Bill Goldberg to become Universal Champ. And we all, obviously, he was a replacement for Roman Reigns. So when the trigger was pulled on Braun Strowman and Adam Scherr, it just felt a bit too late. Too late, I guess, would be a phrase there. But yeah, where he ends up now, Impact, would be interested. And this is a guy where you look at all the releases WWE has made, and it's not implausible to think that he would be going back to WWE at some point. You think that it wouldn't come as a surprise if I woke up tomorrow morning and saw a news story that WWE has re-signed Braun Strowman. That would not surprise me in the slightest. So we'll see what happens with Adam Scherr, but it's good to see him back. I was going to say it's good to see him back in the wrestling ring. But the dude just in terms of how he looks, is just looking. I mean, he was in amazing shape in that final year or two of WWE, and he looks in even better shape right now. The guy is jacked, is slender as well at the same time. It's just he's got a good look for professional wrestling. So we'll see. Good luck to him wherever he ends up. Wrapping things up, we have one question coming from Mark Solid on Twitter. How are you doing, Mark? I'll read the question here. I've got a little copy of it. Morning, my dude. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, Mark. And happy Sunday to everybody watching this. Who are one or two underrated WWE wrestlers that can make a jump and really elevate underrated AEW wrestlers? I picked Ziggler and Rude to jump and join the Wingmen. Thoughts? Hashtag this is the news. Playtime with the pups and the dogs are looking very cool there, Mark. Looking very cozy. It looks like there's 3 dogs. There may be more. But I hope you're having a good Sunday with your pooches. But yeah, for me, when I'm looking at, I don't know, it's like you can go in 2 different strands with this topic. It's like, for me, if I'm looking at people who I want to see in AEW from WWE, who are underutilized, the mind straight away goes, Ricochet. Give me Ricochet in AEW, because I mean, this is a guy who is wrestling on main event, who is barely featured on main roster programming, but at the same time is a guy who is clearly ridiculously talented. We've all seen those matches. We've all seen his Will Ospreay matches. We've all seen the bangers he's put on, even in WWE. Rick in NXT, man, that little... I don't know what you call it. That insane jump spin when he confronted. Oh my God, name's got blank. Velveteen Dream. There's a name I've not said in a while, and probably won't say again for a long while. Yeah, that just Ricochet has done insane things in WWE as well as the insane things out of WWE. So if you're looking at underrated guys who I'd like to see go to AEW, that dude jumps out. But the other way to go with your question is you're talking about people who could elevate AEW wrestlers. I think Dolph Ziggler's a great shout. I think, oh God, man, Bobby Roode, what a great shout that would be. Just you look at maybe those veterans that could go over there and help people. I was going to say step up the game, but that's disrespectful, because the people in AEW right now, the vast majority don't need to step up the game, because AEW are hitting it out of the park on a weekly basis, twice a week, four times a week, I guess, if we're going to cover all their shows. But if I look at people who could go over there, and you look at the word elevation there, no pun intended, but you look at people who could elevate talents and get the best out of talent. I mean, Rude, Ziggler, great shouts. To me, I look at someone like AJ Styles as a no-brainer in that regard. Now, is he undervalued in WWE? Maybe. I mean, I think he's in a good spot now, and clearly his role now is to help Omos along, and that team's done really well. But I mean, to me, AJ Styles, he's a world title contender. He's a singles act who you could throw into a main event, and he could win one of your big world titles against the Roman Reigns, against I have to say Bobby Lashley, a Big E. That's to me AJ Styles. But I mean, if you're looking at somebody who could go to AEW and get the best out of talent and mentor talent, and take them to another level. AJ Styles, man. And obviously you've got the AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, you've got AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, you've got AJ Styles, CM Punk, you've got all those marquee matches. But I mean, you look at like AJ Styles versus Big Shotty Lee Johnson, something like that. That to me is massively appealing. AJ Styles versus Ricky Starks. AJ Styles versus Hook versus the world, Hook versus anyone. But yeah, I mean, that to me is the value in an AJ Styles, is you have him, you could bring him in and have him work with those younger talents, the guys who maybe haven't had that national exposure to a major level in terms of mainstream TV. I mean, obviously, I talk about Lee Johnson and Hook and Ricky Starks. Those guys have been on AEW television for a good old while now, but you just think someone like AJ can bring so much to wherever he goes. He's, to me, I think AJ Styles is one of the most valuable wrestlers on the planet. Even now, obviously, he's in his early 40s now, but just the guy can still go. The guy is the whole phenomenal one. That P1 gimmick, that isn't a gimmick. The AJ Styles is phenomenal. But away from being a massive mark for AJ Styles, another name that comes out is Cesaro, man. That's just Tony. Get Tony to AEW. Get Tony, again, somebody who elevates everybody he's in the ring with, somebody who brings the best out of everybody he's in the ring with, somebody that you can have working in a main event, if you position him correctly and use him correctly, you can have him working in the middle of the card, you can have him working at the bottom of the card, you can have him in the tag ranks, you can have him in your secondary titles, in this case the TNT title. Cesaro, again, just somebody that can be so valuable to any company on the planet, including AEW. And another name I'm going to throw out there, Natalya. Just, man, Natty doesn't get enough love, I feel. But again, that's maybe my heart bias. But yeah, Natalya, again, some of the people have like to throw shade still at the AEW women's division. I think the women's division is in such a good place right now. Give the belt to Thunder Rosa. That's where I'm going after that. Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa writes itself after their previous tangles. That is who I pick to dethrone Britt when it does happen. But I think Natalya is somebody that can go in, and again, you talk about elevating talent. I think Natty is so underrated in that regard, and could bring a whole lot to, again, wherever she went. I mean, she's probably, to be fair, Natalya is a WWE lifer to me. But if she were to maybe see what else is out there and go to AEW, I think she'd do a cracking job. I feel like I've gone really long with that answer, so sorry for the rambling. I do tend to ramble, and it is a Sunday. And, you know, a swig of Red Bull for the working man, which I likely don't need any more of this morning. But that has been the news today. This has been the Sunday news here on What Culture Wrestling. I have been Andrew Pollard. Give us a follow at What Culture WWE on Twitter. If you want to follow me, I'm at Cultured Left Peg. You don't have to. It's cool. I won't take offense on Twitter. Whatever you're doing with your Sunday, like I said at the beginning of this, the main thing is have yourself a great Sunday. Hopefully you're doing not much at all, or if you're doing things, it's things you enjoy. Whether that's just sitting on your ass watching the TV, which is very cool. If it's going for a stroll, if it's going out and about, if it's watching a football, if it's watching a film, if it's doing a nice big dinner, or you're working like I am, just have a great day. Whatever you're doing, be cool, have a good one, and I will catch you next weekend. Ooh, that was me twatting the mic. Sorry about that, Ryan.